Hey, welcome back to AdventureWorld in Godot. So in this video we're going to do some special effects on our gun and add some sounds so that it has a little bit more pop. So let's get started. Let's see, first things first, I downloaded an audio file, this guy, and this is from that freesound.org, and if you use this number you can find it, but any sound file should work. I'm just going to stick it here in this sound directory, so I'm going to go to my downloads and just drag it in. There we go. And so let's go add that real quick. So first things first, let's go to our player object, and then down here under the Boomstick we'll just go ahead and add it there so they're all together. And if we used an audio stream player it would play uniformly no matter where, but if we did an audio stream player 2D, then it'll play on the left or right hand side of the right hand speaker based on where he is on the screen. So we'll go ahead and try that. We'll just drag in that audio file. We can test it here. No, we can't. You can test it here under the import, I think. Maybe not. Anyways, we'll hear it here in just a second. We do not want it to be... Oh, there we go. That's how we can test it, is by clicking the playing. We do not want autoplay. The sound seems just fine, and we haven't messed with the buses, so it should be just fine. Let's see. So we'll rename this audio shot, so it's a little bit easier to type. And let's go to the code to make that happen. So pretty easy. We've already got a function for fire boomstick. So all we need to do is just go boomstick autoshot.play, and we're done. So now if we play our game and we pick it up, and when we shoot we hear the sound. So perfect. Alright, next thing, let's add a couple of particle systems. Now these are not going to be, there's nothing particularly new here, but you know, good to see how it works in action. So we're going to add a particles 2D. I'm going to go into move mode so I can drag it around. We'll put it right here. We're going to do a burst that comes out when you shoot your gun. So let's add that right there. And you notice we got the warning sign, which means we need a particles material. For the texture, we're going to use that smoke that we've used for other ones. I played around with some other ones, some other things, but really this is very versatile texture for this. So let's go ahead and use that, and let's go into the particle materials. We're going to scale this down quite a bit. So let's go to like 0.2. Maybe even lower, 0.1. There we go. And then notice, the reason it's falling is because we've got gravity. So here, really what's happening is we're just spawning it and then gravity is pulling it down. So we're going to erase gravity. Now they're just going to stay right there. So instead, we want to give it some initial velocity. So we're going to click on initial velocity. Let's give it an initial velocity of, I don't know, 100. Probably not enough. 300. Yeah, that's not too bad. Alright, and then see how it's kind of like sprinkling out? What we really want is for it to burst out. We also want, we also want a lot more of them. So we'll try 30. Yeah, let's try 30. And then under time, this explosiveness, this is how much they come out at once. So 0 means they don't come out at all. They at once they go out one at a time, but if we go all the way up to 1, they burst out like that. And then we can reduce that just a little bit, let's say 0.8, and see they'll kind of burst out over a little bit short period of time. And this is going to be a one-shot, which means it's only going to fire once as we shoot. And we could set that here, but what would happen is I wouldn't be able to visually see the particle system. So we'll leave that off for now and we'll set it on with code. Matter of fact, we can go ahead and do that right now. So right up here, where we kind of configure things. Oh, I should name that. So here it's just called particles. Let's call this burst. So we're calling it burst particles 2D. I apologize if you guys can hear that sound in the background. It's my hamster. He's playing in his wheel. Stick slash 2D dot. Oh, node not found. Interesting. Huh. I don't know why it's not finding it. One shot equals false. Oh, equals true, I'm sorry. There we go, okay. Just needed to update. Alright, so that should set that to a one shot. And then, oh, we need to fire that off. So down here under our fire boomstick, let's go boomstick slash... I don't know why it's being stubborn. First particles 2D dot emitting equals true. So this will trigger off the emission of our particles. So let's see. Oh, let's change some other properties on there. Let's change the color on them. So to do that, I go under this process material. And then, oh, we also want them to not last as long. See how they're shooting out really far? It's a little bit overstated. So right here in the lifetime, we can reduce the lifetime. Let's go down to 0.2, 0.3, somewhere in there. I think 0.2 is probably good. Excuse me. And then under the process material, let's change the color. So we'll do the color. Actually, instead of setting a color, let's do this color ramp. Do a gradient color, and then we'll dig into gradient, new gradient, dig into that, and then under the colors for indices, we've got two colors. So this is the color it starts at, and that's the color it ends at. Let's start it at a nice heavy red color, because you know we've got kind of a explosion going on, and then we'll end it a little bit more of a gray subdued color, and then we'll reduce the alpha down so that it kind of vanishes as it goes out. So there we go. Could just make it more white. That looks pretty good right there. Just kind of playing around with stuff. Alright, one last thing is, see how it's all coming from this like specific point right there? We've got this blunderbuss kind of thing that's kind of like a big opening there. So let's make that look like it's coming from a bigger area. So we've got this emission shape, and it's set to point, which means all these particles are coming from that exact point right there. But if we do like a sphere, then we have control over how big of an area that it'll randomly appear within an area of a radius of you know, whatever this is. So if we did 20, they're going to appear in some kind of area, kind of like about like that. It's too big, obviously. 5's not too bad. So we can leave that. There's other shapes here. You could do box or directed points, etc. But in this case, sphere looks pretty good. Alright, let's see. Spread, you could also change the spread. So if we did like 90, it's going to spread out over a 90 degree area. Or you could tighten that up and go 10. See, now it's more of a narrow thing. 45 or 50 probably looks good in this case, though. Just interesting things to play with. These angular velocities, if we wanted to make it where it like twisted or turned or rotated, but in this case you can't really even see these smoke things coming out, so I don't think there's any need to mess with these guys. We could adjust the scale but I think they're fine just the way they are in this case. So alright, let's leave that alone. And we'll save that. Let's see how it looks. So one little thing to notice, when I first came in, let's restart this. Now watch real closely when I jump on my gun. So it fired off the animation right as I picked it up. And the reason for that is back here under, went too far. Right here my emitting is on. So that's why that why that happens. So let's jump into the script. We'll go back up here to our configuration stuff and let's say boomstick burst particles dot emitting equals false. So that'll turn it off to start with. So hopefully now if I jump on here, no animation until I hit it. Now one small bug that we'll notice is if I do this really fast, you notice it's only happening randomly, but if I fire slow enough, it does just fine. So let's go ahead and add a delay. I don't want to be able to fire too fast anyways. I only want to be able to fire once every second or so. So let's go ahead and add a little delay in there. So we'll add, let's see. Oh, I know what I can do. Now we could do this with a timer, and that's what we will do, but we'll use a timer here in code. So I'm going to add up here at the top, I'm going to add a new new variable, and I'm going to call this variable boomstick reloading equals false. So he's not reloading now. And then when we fire, at the end of this, let's say boomstick reloading equals true. Then let's do a timer, and we'll use this code up here, and we'll yield on, so which means wait for this thing to finish. We're going to wait for this timer to finish, or the timeout event to finish on this timer that we're going to create. And half a second is probably good. We can adjust that if we need to. Reloading equals false. So during this period of time he's going to be reloading and won't be able to fire again. Now we need to make sure that he doesn't fire when reloading is true. So let's go ahead and copy this so I don't have to type it again. And then down here where we trigger the gun, which is right here. So if the action is just pressed, fire boomstick, and boomstick reloading equals false, meaning only fire the boomstick if he's not reloading. So now let's play this again. I'm going to jump on the boomstick, and then I'm going to spam the fire button as fast as I can. But he's only firing every half second because I'm reloading in between there. Now you could add a sound effect or something like that if you wanted to for the reloading, but this just kind of prevents him from firing too fast. Alright, so okay, next one. Let's you notice when I fire my gun, it's a little bit lackluster. The particle behind the bullet itself is a little lackluster. Let's beef that up just a little bit. So that is under objects and then boomstick shot. And we already added a particle system so that we can kind of see the trail behind it, but let's fancy that up a little bit. So under the process material, for gravity we have it flowing down. But what I'd really like is kind of to have this like smoke wafting up behind it. So instead of a positive gravity to it, let's add a negative gravity to it of about like 20. And so, instead of a positive gravity, let's add a negative gravity, which means it'll float up, right? So, you can kind of picture, technically, smoke is affected by gravity too, but it's lighter than air, so it floats up. Hopefully I'm not butchering my physics there, but just to simplify it, we want it to float up. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. Also, let's go ahead and add that texture, the smoke texture to it, so that we get a little bit better effect than just the blocks there. So we'll go under effects here and drag in the white smoke. We could grab the white smoke too, just to be whoops, just to be different. What am I doing? Textures, there we go. And it's very similar, but a little bit different. Okay, we'll go back into this, and we obviously need to scale it down quite a bit, so let's go down to 0.1, nope, let's go 0.2. So we want it to be, I'm going to try and make it a little bit closer to the size of the object. Alright, and we'll do the same with the color, like what we did before. We'll do the gradient, and then add a gradient, drill into the gradient, go into the colors, indices. Alright, so here, let's make it a little bit of a gray to start with. And then on this one, let's just go full on alpha it out. And we'll keep it gray, but we'll lighten it up just a little bit. Alright. Now this one is a little bit harder to see when it's not being fired, so let's go ahead and fire it and we'll see how it looks now. Looks pretty good. It's maybe a little dark at first, and then also the trail seems really heavy, so let's lighten up our trail a little bit. So first we'll lighten this up a little bit so that it's not as dark when it starts, and then way back out here we're doing 30. Maybe we'll try 20 instead. And by that I said the thickness, and so what that'll do is, instead of it having so many particles, there we go. That looks pretty good. Maybe I should have lightened it up a little bit more, but it's alright. Now, one thing is, notice how it's lasting for, you know, a second or two and then disappearing. Looks a little weird. Let's boost the lifetime. So it's only lasting for 1 second. And really, we'd kind of like it to last the life of the particle. I mean, the bullet. So let's go to, I don't know, 5 seconds maybe? My problem here is now my particles are too far apart. So let's go to 2 seconds instead, and we'll go back to the 30. And hopefully this will balance out a little bit on how it looks. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's maybe a little bit too, maybe bump the randomness a little bit. I think this will make the dots not come out so uniformly. Yeah, I think it did. Anyways, that looks pretty good. And one last thing, when you fire a gun, you get a little smoke effect up, especially a big one like this. So I think that would look pretty cool. So let's go ahead and add that one too. So we're going to add another particle system. Make sure I'm in move mode, and this one I'm going to position right here at the top of the gun, and we'll call this smoke, or yeah, smoke particles 2D, and we'll need a process material for that one. Let's go back and we'll add the texture, that white one again, and mission shape, we're definitely going to leave this one on a point. The scale needs to go way down on this one. But for this one I want to have a scale curve. So let's go ahead and add that. And then here, let's go from something really small to something not that big. Maybe about like that. And then also, let's go back to gravity. And we're going to do -98. Let's go a little slower. We don't want it to flow up so fast. So maybe like 50. I don't know, maybe a little bit less. Kind of want it to wafe up a little bit. Alright, that's looking a little bit better, but it's really short. We want it to be longer. So to fix that, we need the time to be longer. So we'll go to 3 seconds. Looking pretty good. Yeah. Okay. So it's looking pretty good. Maybe more of these. There we go. Give it a little bit more of a waif. Maybe cut it down to 2.5 seconds. Yeah, and then we'll make it a little bit smaller at the end. So we'll go into my scale curve. Maybe lower that down just a little bit more. Looks pretty decent. And then we need to go to the color. Color gradient. Add a new gradient. Drill in that. Color indices. We'll start this one off. We'll start it off a little bit red. Alright, and then we'll go to kind of more of a wispy gray. Kind of there, and of course we'll pull the alpha down. So yeah, see now we're starting to get a nice little smoking gun effect. Let's see. One last little thing. Let's add some radial acceleration. So let's add like 20. 5. Yeah, that helps. And then 0.5. Zoom in there a little bit. It just gives it a little bit of variety. It's not actually the one I wanted. Maybe angular velocity. Orbit. Whoa, that's definitely not what I wanted. Okay, I think we're good right there. Let's leave it. Now we just need to control when this turns on and off. So to do that, let's see. So this one's tricky. I could set this as a one shot, and basically this is what it would do. Is it would go for, wait, here we go. So it would go for 2.5 seconds and then cut off like that. It's actually not too bad. But where it would be a problem is if I fired multiple times, it would act funny. Let's go ahead and yeah. Let's go ahead and leave that on. So we'll make it a one-shot in code. That way I can see it here all the time, and we'll adjust as needed. So let's go back up here, and we'll do boomstick / smoke particles 2D dot. So we'll turn off the emitting to start. Oh, didn't mean to do that. And we will also make it a one shot. Alright, and then we need to trigger that off when we fire. So we'll do that here as well. Boomstick / smoke particles 2D dot emitting equals true. Let's go ahead and see how this works out, and we can adjust if needed. Oh, there it goes. Oh, one little problem. See how the smoke is moving with me? I don't mind that with the burst, right? Because I want the burst to kind of stay with the gun. But that looks really fakey when the smoke moves with my player. And we fix that. How? By clicking the drawing local chords. Turn that off. Alright. So now yeah, it's kind of hard to see. It's a little bit subtle to see, but now they don't follow the player unless he just stands still. That's a little weird though, because see, as I'm firing, it's sort of starting and stopping, and it's sort of odd. So let's fix that. So instead of using this, we will use this emitting here. That's not a problem. But this one shot, let's get rid of that. Okay. And then let's add a timer here. And we'll call this our smoke timer. And we'll set a timeout on it. We'll connect that up to our main thing. And all we're going to do in here is to make it stop the smoke emitting when the timer goes out. Okay? So we'll do $boomstick smoke particles 2D dot emitting equals false. That's all we're going to do with this one. However, we do need to trigger it off. So we'll trigger it off in the same place as we do in the Fire Boomstick. So we'll set it emitting, and we'll set boomstick.smoketimer.start. Okay? Oh, and we need to set the duration. Let's set it for 0.5, and let's go. So I'll fall down here. So now you notice it still fires. It's only going for half a second, so let's bump that up. Let's go up to 2 seconds. I'll go back to my game. And I guess for that to take effect, I need to restart. It's odd how you can change some stuff and then other things you can't. Alright, there we go. So I should get 2 seconds of smoke, and then it should stop. Now the cool thing is if I keep firing, because it's within that 2 seconds, I keep getting my smoke effect. And then as soon as I release, 2 seconds later, the smoke stops. So in this case, that's a much smoother experience. So there we go. In this video, we added sound effects. We cleaned up our particle systems a little bit, added a couple more. Our gun feels a whole lot more effective now, and as you saw, it does defeat monsters. So there we go. I think our gun is done. I said that I would do some different types of projectiles, and I think we'll do that in a different, maybe some separate videos, because I was messing around with this gun, and by putting a gun and it's not like centered on the player, visually it's really tough to angle it around. So we'll do something a little bit simpler. If you look at something like Terraria, where you can aim the bow around you and stuff, it behaves a lot differently. And probably why they did a lot of their like axes and stuff just kind of swing in a fixed arc on the player. Anywho, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.